The first one is Mr. Fukunari Kimura, President and CEO of IDE Jetro. Please welcome to the stage. Big round of applause for Mr. Kimura. Please, there is your name in there. Yeah, here. The second one is Mr. Bani Maulana Mulia, the CEO of Samudra, Indonesia. Join me, welcome to the stage. Thank you. The third one is Mr. Richard Liang, President Director of ZTE Indonesia. Please. Thank you. Professor Jennifer Westacott, Australia's Business Champions for Indonesia. Please. We're still waiting. Please. And the last one, my old professor, Professor Sigit Puji Santosa, Chief Technology Officer of BPI Danantara. Please. Okay. Now, let me remind you again that at the end, I'm going to try to carve out 10 minutes for questions from the floor. But without further ado, so I've laid out the first stance, which is how to balance strict protectionist regulation with growth. So the first question is for you, Pak Sigit. Indonesia has relied heavily on local content rules, import restrictions to support domestic industries, which I would argue is necessary. But few firms have scaled into globally competitive champions. What needs to change in ownership structures, industrial policy, and the way foreign capital enters Indonesia to ensure that investment strengthens Indonesian firms rather than displacing them? Please.
Terima kasih, thank you very much. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
I think Indonesia should be a very, very strong. The local content is one strategy, but what kind of local content we need to pursue, that's another strategies. So I think what we need to do, number one, to make sure that the economic growth and competitiveness is actually happening in Indonesia, number one, we have to really empower what the natural resources that we have, is number one. Number two is the skilled engineers to support the industries. Number three is what level of downstreamings of industries that we will be doing. Number four is the tech-driven industry that will be the engine of the machines of the economic growth. I think the policies that we have to really change, we have done this in the last 40 years. Many strategy of industrialization is only on the very last part of the activities, of the products, manufacturings. What we need to do, we have to go to full cycle developments, from the designs, developments, validation certifications, and then mass productions, which will need not only the local contents, but also the strategy on how to manage those natural resources. So I think what we need to do now, if we simplify the process of downstreamings, there are 4 levels of downstreamings. Yeah. The first one is natural resource excavations into the smelters. Number 2 is actually making the components. That's the level 2 of downstreamings. Level 3 is actually the subsystem. Level 4 is for the complete products. What we have so far in the last 40 years in Indonesia is only on the very first level 1s and the very last level 4. What we need to do, we have to have a complete cycles, then that's a game changers. And from the Danantara point of views, we have the strategies, actually from the CTO office, where we have to really complete this industrial developments, full cycle developments to support Indonesian economics in the futures. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very comprehensive. Now I'm going to segue into Pak Bani. As a leading logistic company in Indonesia, Pak Sigit mentioned about the incentives given by the Indonesian government, the support through regulations, the local imports restrictions, the regulation for local content requirements. How do you see this translate into your day-to-day activities, considering that you have to operate globally? You're a logistic company that operates outside Indonesia.
Yes, thank you. For Samudra Indonesia, we are, first of all, we're blessed that the company has a long history. We were started just 4 years after the Indonesia's independence, so we are more than 75 years experience. And the founder was someone who was born in the 1920s, and he's very passionate of seeing Indonesia become independent, and not only Indonesia, but also the people of Indonesia and Indonesian companies to become, in bahasa is tuan rumah di negeri sendiri. So we want to be masters and operators of not only our homeland, but of course our seas as well. The connectivity between the islands of Indonesia, and also to other parts of the world. And that's the vision that Samudra was built on. So from the get-go, we were a company that started as an international operator. So we operate our first ships between Indonesia and Europe. And so even until today, we still operate outside of Indonesia, even though Indonesia, we see it as the most important market for us. But being a global shipping company, we know that we cannot only be comfortable with the Indonesian environment. We need to be able to answer the global standards, the international standards. And so I think for now, the highest requirements for us is for us to operate in the European market. And so that's the highest requirement for us. And we also operate in other markets, such as the Japanese market, even the domestic in other Southeast Asian markets. So we are accustomed to answer to the higher requirement that push us as a company.
Okay.
But so I think to answer your question is, we want to see Indonesian companies build up their competitiveness without being too comfortable, protected by policies inside Indonesia or inside the country.
Can I be a bit naughty by pressing you a little bit on that front? Do you see the current regulation nurtures that instinct or rather inhibit it? Do you want to see anything changed?
Yeah, I think it should change. I think, I mean, for us to be able to be heard more globally, for Indonesia companies to flourish more, we need to open up. And we need to face the reality that markets cannot be protected forever. Okay. And of course, there's going to be a lot of arguments about that. But if we still have the local knowledge, the local know-how, we still have better advantage compared to foreign investment. And so also the government, I believe, wanted to attract more and more FDI coming into the country, right? Okay. So I believe it would be beneficial for Indonesia to open up the regulations to be more friendly to global competition.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to segue to you, Pak Fukunari. Drawing on experiences of Japan in building globally competitive domestic champions, which elements are transferable to Indonesia context, learning from your own experience?
Thank you. The Japanese story is some part is very old, so we have to be careful the relevance, of course, particularly before and after the 1990 or so, before globalization, after globalization. But still, I think 4 cases that could be at least partially relevant to the Indonesian case. The first one is that not only Japan, but Northeast Asian countries, including China, Korea, and Chinese Taipei, we did a lot of R&D investment, human capital development, and also trying to set up a science and technology base. I think that's a very important thing to think of as sort of international competitiveness. So that's what many Southeast Asian countries cannot really do so far. So this is one thing that we have to be careful. The second, in old Meiji era, in the 19th century, end of 19th century, the government sold out mining sites to private companies. And that was a sort of seed money for setting up business conglomerates. So actually not just doing mining, but doing banking and other things by those business conglomerates. So that provides a sort of seed of money to set up a sort of big companies, actually. So similar thing could happen in the case of Indonesia. You have a sort of big natural resources over there. So, but maybe not stick to mining only, because that may not generate a lot of innovation actually for the rest of the economy. The third one, work with multinationals is very important. And then actually in Japan, after World War II for a while, that was very closed economy. But in the 1910s and 20s, that's an old story, but hosted a bunch of multinationals in Japan. For example, Ford automobile company set up a factory in Japan, and that was a seed of technology acquirement over there. Yeah. So I think that how to acquire foreign technologies and also some degree of exposure to foreign competition. I think those two elements are all the way very important. So the transactions with multinationals, I think very crucial to get access to technologies over there.
So you would highlight the Japanese openness to multinationalisms as being key.
Right, so
yeah?
in the 1920s actually.
Right.
Then automobile companies started, actually, so then that would revive after the military period in the 1950s and 60s.
Right.
So, in the current world, of course, exposure to multinationals is much more important. So in the globalization era, so that's a must to have a sort of a good exposure. The important thing is to set up the production link with the multinationals. I think that's extremely important. The last one is platformers with disruptive innovation, particularly in the context of Indonesia, a sort of a creative imitation, starting from to imitate a sort of business models abroad, and then setting up, so good examples like Gojek and super application. I think that in case of a Japanese experience too, we have Rakuten and SoftBank and others try to do that. So they were not quite successful, maybe 100% successful to compete with the GAFA, but working with them was very crucial to set up a certain level of competition. So I think 4 cases, those are very relevant, partially relevant to Indonesia's case.
Right. What I could deduce from Pak Bani and Pak Kimura is that competitiveness is a key ingredient to being able to compete globally. Do you see that as well in Australia, Professor Westacott, if you want to jump into this discussion?
Yeah, look, if I think about what set Australia up for uninterrupted growth, it was competition reform. We did 4 things in Australia in the 80s. We removed tariffs and opened our markets up to competition. I mean, you can't be a champion if you don't compete. The second thing we did was to introduce an independent competition regulator to break down monopolies. The third thing we did was undertake an incredible period of deregulation, and we also privatised major government assets, Qantas, the Commonwealth Bank, our telecommunications industry. Those reforms set Australia up for unbroken economic growth for 30 years, which then got supported by the mining boom. But most importantly, the real beneficiaries of it were consumers with lower prices and better services. And so that's why our independent regulator is called the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, because this is very much about a better deal for consumers.
Pak Sigit, before we segue to the second stance, and before I go to you, Pak Liang, so we have this feedback that basically says that competitiveness is really important. Opening up yourself to global world is very important. You're in a very strategic and unique position because you bridge the government end-to-end initiatives and ensuring that the companies in Indonesia are competitive. Are we ready at the moment to opening up our doors to global competitive world?
I think we have to be ready. I think the key points of competitiveness is actually not only we can grow our domestic industries to be competitive, and also we can basically compete not only in domestic but also regional and also global market. There is no limitations for basically having the global players not coming into Indonesia. That's the key. Okay. I think we have several issues, constraints that we have to address. I think before I go to the next speakers, actually, the biggest problem we can discuss today is probably the ecosystem of innovations of the industrial and manufacturing sectors. Without this, we cannot be just a service industries only. But if we have the global, the ecosystem of innovations being developed, I think it is open for any global, challenge. Whatever is global industries coming in or coming out, there will be no problems. Thank you.
We're moving on to stance 2. One of the challenges in opening up your doors is to make sure that your local talents integrate seamlessly with foreign laborers. And I would like to go to you, Pak Bani, because as a CEO of Samudra Indonesia, I would like to ask you something along this line. So, how do you think Indonesia should rethink its talent immigration, skill policy, to make sure that global talent accelerates capacity building within Indonesian firms rather than substituting for or bypassing them?
No, in our experience as a private company, a perusahaan swasta, now we are in line with what the President Prabowo is saying now with Danantara, that Danantara is open to be managed by expatriates, right? For us in the private sector, that has been the way for forever, right? So we have multiple, any nationalities working in Samudra, Singaporeans, Australian, Japanese. We don't see them by nationalities. That's first and foremost. Secondly, as an Indonesian based company or Indonesian born company, we are very proud also with the potential that Indonesia has to export its human capital globally. Now, we are not the #1 seafarers in the world, but we definitely have a big potential to do more. And as what we also discussed with the Japanese and yesterday's also in the bilateral session, that there's a mutual need between Japan and Indonesia to work together for Indonesia to export more skilled workers to Japan because of the needs in the Japanese market, because in the domestic market they have less and less people and we have more people to provide. And the Japanese government even deregulates and open up their domestic market to foreign workers. And so that is very interesting and opportunities for Indonesian companies to push for more Indonesian to work globally.
How do you ensure when you have a company filled with foreign talents, some are from many different nationality backgrounds, that knowledge transfer happens between them? What you don't want is that when these foreign experts leave, they bring knowledge away with them. How do you ensure that the knowledge stays?
Well, I think, first of all, by just being competitive and being a global player, that anybody can join the company and anybody also can leave. We always push for people to always to move. I personally don't like I do appreciate that my employees are mostly loyal, but I push them to grow outside of Samudra and also outside of Indonesia or outside of different countries. We have subsidiaries in many different countries, so it's borderless for us. The DNA is not an Indonesian company anymore, right? I mean, we have some parts of the subsidiaries are listed in Singapore, some are listed here, and so we are accustomed to work with different regulatories and markets. And so the executives have to have an international mindset. And for that, their knowledge is not bound by, not only by companies or by countries, but it's the market will determine what is needed, and they know their value in the market.
Thank you. Professor Westacott, I know that Australian universities have had a lot of collaboration with Indonesian one. Congratulations on the opening of Monash University, although it's not very recent. And then you have Deakin Lancaster University in West Java and many others. I think it's fair to say that Australia spearheads research collaborations with Indonesia compared to, unfortunately, the UK or the US. How do you see this evolving in the future? How do you ensure that Indonesia can grow its own research capacity? One of the problems that I would like to also, perhaps if you have the time to highlight, is that one of the common problems in Indonesia is that research in universities and research in industries don't necessarily align. Sometimes they do their own research, sometimes the universities their own research. How do you make sure that there is seamless integration between research taking place in industry and in the universities as well?
Well, thanks. If I go to the first question first, but just to say it as a general comment, competitiveness is going to be for every nation on the planet defined by skills and capabilities of people. You know, if you want to grow the economy, you've got to drive innovation and investment and productivity. That's all about skills and capabilities. So what are Australian universities and what can we do in Australia? I think it goes across three areas. The first is qualifications, the second is training, and the third is research. On qualifications, Australian universities are very often ranked in the top 100. My own university, Western Sydney University, where I'm Chancellor, has been ranked #1 in the world 4 times in a row for impact from the Times Higher Education Impact Rankings. We've got 25,000 students studying in Australia, but what we want to do is see Australian universities come to Indonesia. So my university in Surabaya, Deakin University in Bandung, Monash here in Jakarta. We've also got a lot of partnerships between Australian universities and Indonesian universities. We've also got dual qualifications such as Queensland universities. On training, which is super important, not just the qualifications bit, the training and skill development, we've got a very sophisticated vocational system in Australia. When I visit many employers, Australian companies here, they're partnering with Australian education providers, Indonesian education providers. Under our trade agreement with Indonesia, we've got 2 skills exchange programs, one to put Indonesian employers in touch with Australian education providers. The other is an education exchange program where people are moving between countries. That's about culture. It's also about filling skill gaps. There's huge opportunities in nursing, in other sectors like construction. On research, it's a very important opportunity. There are huge opportunities for joint research and for lifting the quality of research. We have a platform called Kineski, which drives collaborative partnerships between Indonesian companies and Australian researchers and Indonesian researchers. There's a couple of things that have to happen for both qualifications and research. Mutual recognition of the standards to drive that greater collaboration, mutual recognition of qualifications. But on your industry point, many countries struggle with this. What we've done in Australia, and we're by no means perfect at it, is research grants are often linked to collaboration with business. And what's called the Research and Development Tax Concession has incentives if businesses collaborate with universities. The challenge is making sure the research grants are designed to drive that collaboration and that industry offers industrial PhDs and placements as part of their training and development program. That's really the deepening of that relationship.
We have something like that in the UK called Innovate UK.
Yeah.
It's something like
Exactly, yeah.
right? So whereby PhD students doing PhDs in university, in my case, in the University of Nottingham, actually on day-to-day basis doing research in industry.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would like to segue to Pak Sigit because, well, that's quite revealing. Research in industry and research in universities, they have to correlate one and each other. Private sector investment in human capital and R&D in Indonesia remains limited. Private sector remains limited. How do we make sure that there is shared incentives by private sectors and by universities to ensure that research and development links strategically in these two?
Yeah, thank you. The strategy really, as I mentioned before, the 4 level of downstreamings, we cannot just take the low-hanging fruit. We have to go to the hard part. As I mentioned, Professor Salso from Monash was saying that innovations is the critical part. We have to really work hard in basically recruiting industry that will be working hard into implementing the innovation. I agree that we have a lot of challenges. In many occasions, I go down to several industries. They don't even have interest or their priorities of doing product development and R&D because they are working on the very downstreams products, activities. But if you are doing it on the upstreams, I think they will have to start with that. I think you're in the UK. We've been working with several companies on how do we advance in terms of the innovations. The semiconductor, for example. UK is very strong in semiconductors on the very first chip designs. Chip design is only the very first pillars, right? That's a 40% of revenues over there. Yeah. But on the very downstreams, the packagings, it's only 20%. In between, the foundry is another 40%. I think if we're working on the very right, then we will not get any innovation system. So we have to work toward the upstreams works so that we can have the full cycles of products developments in the industry. That's ecosystems, innovations, and also the strategy have to come together.
Very good point and very good example. Chip design, foundry. I would like to segue to China because, well, I studied in Taiwan. There is Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, the TSMC. It's leading in semiconductor in chip. But the Chinese have been catching up fast, let's say. In the beginning, you were focusing on perhaps commodities. And now I think the Chinese are, if not the strongest, one of the strongest research in terms of research output, research papers, IP, patents. So I want to understand some of the lessons learned from China. And this is segueing into my first stance about competitiveness as well. How do you see the alignment between the Chinese government regulation and ensuring that the Chinese companies were able to be competitive globally and successful in bridging research and development between the universities such as Tsinghua and others and the industries?
Okay, good afternoon. Regarding the question, I would like to share 3 perspectives from China companies. Number 1 is a forward-looking government strategy. That's very crucial for building global champion. We are from telecommunication industry, so please allow me take 5G as an example. 10 years ago, China government made a clear strategy for 5G rollout to encourage all the ecosystem company join the journey. As a telecommunication solution provider, we know this is a very big plan, very big market, how to deploy in the whole nation. We keep firm investment on the 5G. By this way, keep our leading position in 5G globally. I think the same logic happened to the new energy industry and the electric vehicle industry. That's number one. Number two, I think is talent cultivation. I born in 1978. At that time, China started the reform and opened up. At that time, China has 600 universities only. After 48 years, there are, if I'm not wrong, there are 3,200 universities. That had improved China nation quality and cultivate huge numbers of engineers. That's from the nation level. From the corporate level, most of the big China company put professional training and skills as a very high level. If you see ZTE, we also have a ZTE. We're not only doing the business, we also have ZTE University dedicated to make training for our internal staff. I think it is from the corporate level to help employee have a good skill. This is number two. Number three, I would like to share is some financial support for the important but underdeveloped industries, like chipset. At the beginning stage, the chipset company is how to say, is like competitiveness. They are fail to grow or exit the market. So that's why they need a long-term financial support at the earlier stage to help them survive and the development. I think there's some, my personal opinion, the lesson learned from how the China company have a global competitive. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much. I'm going again to you because we're going to start our stance 3. Yeah. We only have 5 more minutes before Q&A, so I'm going to be really quick. How do you make sure that the technological advances taking place in China does not replace labor?
Yes.
Yeah. How do you make sure that they adopt it rather than being replaced by it?
So this is a very hot topic. So I think if you are afraid of something, you embrace something. So we have to learn knowledge because the time changes so fast. The AI is coming. I think I have noticed some Indonesian company has cooperated with overseas company to build own Indonesian large language model to training and to build Indonesia's own AI platform. I think that's very important to make Indonesia AI independence and help the country have a good position on the new technology. And number 2, my suggestion is so to keep strong support on infrastructure, like 5G construction in Indonesia. So that will help Indonesia reach productivities and enhance the efficiency, like some vertical industry, like education, transportation, or some hospital or some area. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would like to go to you, but we don't have enough time, so I need to open the questions to the floor. Am I going to be assisted by organizers here? Or should be anybody? Can anybody brief me? Anybody want to ask some questions? Maybe you can raise your hands. No? I cannot understand that gesture. Okay, all right. All right, okay, so okay, please. Anybody would like to ask some questions? Just raise your hands and then the organizers will give the microphone to you. Please be succinct because we only have limited amount of time. Yes, to the gentleman right in the middle here, please. Oh, just to update, we have 20 minutes for Q&A, so take your time.
Hello.
Well, not too much time.
Hello, I'm AJ Surin from Vision Gen Group of Malaysia. I'd just like to find out from the panel, what is the general adoption of AI in Indonesia, whether it is in corporate organizations or even in the government sector? Something that I would like to be enlightened with because I'm actually involved in the technology space. Thank you.
Do you have question to specific panelists, or am I free to just...
Perhaps I can actually ask the question to Pak Sigit. Thank you.
Pak Sigit, okay, Pak Sigit, please.
Yeah, it's very hot topics on the AI. We do have organizations, basically that Indonesians AI associations where they're developing the data trainings and also a lot of activities in terms of the managements, on the financial managements, on the health systems, and also a lot of engineering industry, but that's still scattered. But we are right now working in the government side and also in the state-owned enterprise side, where the AI can be the tools for efficiencies. It doesn't mean the tools to replace a lot of workers, is not, but efficiencies. Number two is the tools of AI that we are working right now is how can we detect if there's a lot of, there's some potential irregularity, there's potentials of, the wrongdoings is being done in the financials management. That's where we are developing that. Number three is building up the systems that's much more efficient with the AI. So those three things we have been working. From the Danantara side, we have been inviting a lot of experts, a lot of organizations to build up the Indonesian specific AI database so that we can use and utilize based on what we need in Indonesian industries and governments. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Pak Fukunari, Kimura, IDE is the research arm of JETRO. And I think considering your emphasis on process quality, AI, I would imagine is an integral part in JETRO or in Japan in general. So how do you see AI being implemented? Or how it's supposed to be?
Right. Yeah, AI is everywhere from now on. In case of business operations, of course, many can utilize AI to increase efficiency and others, and the quality upgrading too. The generative AI, that's a little bit different story probably. The researchers and others are now intensively utilized, but how to utilize that, how to set up a sort of a proper question to get a good answer, still room for improvement. Maybe 2-3 years from now on, that's going to be much better. But we cannot really avoid utilizing AI or generative AI, definitely. And it's really coming in our daily life right now.
Right, it's become an integral part of daily life, yeah.
Yeah.
Second questions? To the gentleman with an eyeglass and batik over there. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm Andre from CHIPS, we're a think tank. So I'm really inspired with Pak Bani explanation. Like you're an Indonesian company, but you go overseas because you want to, be global standards, right? And I think that was also, from what I know, that's one of the strategy from the Chinese government is actually to push their companies to go abroad to get more technology and things like that. So my question is actually for Richard and Pak Sigit, right? Does ZTE also embark on that kind of strategy to actually invest overseas to gain knowledge and technology? And whether Danantara is considering that kind of strategy of investing overseas to actually learn and gain more knowledge, just like Samudra Indonesia, basically. So,
interesting point. The ZTE invests heavily on penetrating global market to go outside of China. And then to you, Pak Sigit, after this.
We started our business Indonesia since 2004. At that time, the ZTE just started the international business. So why we come to Indonesia and several countries? Because the telecommunication technology is international standard, and we have at that time we have the standard products. Then we want, because if we only do the domestic market, is not enough. So that's why we come to outside to see more opportunity. So if you take ZT Indonesia as an example, we currently have over 2,000 employees here. We work here. We commitment to Indonesia to serve Indonesia well, and also we will keep localization. Most of our employees are local employee, and also we cultivate telecommunication engineer in Indonesia, and also we would like to do more contribution for Indonesia digital transformation and economic prosperity.
Sigit, do you want to take the same question?
The same thing with Danantara. We are working strategic partnerships for the investments, not only for Indonesia domestically, but also the overseas. For Indonesia, typically we are working to expand and also grow our industries in Indonesia. But for the overseas, we have several in discussions. As a matter of fact, 2-3 days ago, so we have some discussions on how we build strong partnerships by investing in overseas also. In several actually fields in the energy sectors, mining sectors, and transportation sectors. So we are actually very broad parts of the globalizations, and you know, to make sure that we can compete not only locally but also globally.
Thank you. Any other questions? I think I see the gentleman there right in the middle raising his hands first. Can colleague facilitate, please? Yeah.
Hello, my name is Doni from PT Imeco. I want to ask the question about the research budget for Indonesia. Indonesia currently have only 12 trillion of budget for the national budget, which only 0.003% of the national budget. Is that enough for the entire research research budget for the country? With that limited budget, how to integrate the research budget to boost industrial growth and how to build the successful pentaholics ecosystem? Thank you.
I think what you meant was 0.3, it's not 0.003. There's a mild difference there.
0.3.
Okay, all right. Well, whatever it is, it's a small number, Sigit. I think the question is for you because it relates to national R&D budget. Is that enough to boost growth?
Yeah, that number, to be exact, is 0.34%, is actually very small. However, that is counted from the Ministry of Higher Education and Science and Technologies, and also the Innovation Research Councils of BRIN. But I think we haven't really counted for the industrials. The key here is that if we are working on the product developments, it will require R&D. So the more industry working toward the product developments, the more they will work on the R&D. So I think we are working into the road mapping, mappings of the industry that will work on the R&D for the product developments. And also we are trying to match the industrial R&D that was that are being backed by the university and research institutions. This will be huge. I can give you examples of one of the research. We funded, you know, I have both sides of my feet actually on universities, but also in the industries. We funded only about, it's not more than $1 million of research. product developments, industrial driven R&D. Then we had some tremendous results that can not only replace the substitute import, but also strengthens our national security's resilience in terms of the products. Now we are with 2022. We start with $1 million, about 17 million rupiah. We are about to build the factories, mass scale up, 3.9 trillions out of that research. I think if we can map out this kind of product developments, it will be more than 0.34%. But yes, 0.34% is actually from the Dikti Scientech and also the BRINs, but actually for the industries, I think we have to count it properly. Thank you.
Optimistic outlook. Insights from Japan and then Australia, R&D to boost companies' competitiveness. Same questions from the gentleman, in your view.
Yeah, I just want to add a little bit more on that question.
Yeah.
About 10 years ago, Thailand wanted to raise R&D investment GDP ratio up to 1%. At the time, that they had, I think, a 0.4 or 0.5, I think. And then at the end, they couldn't. They couldn't use up money. So the government prepared for money, but universities, research institutes, and others are not capable enough to utilize that research money effectively, actually. So it's not a matter of money, but who would do that, and that would be very important. So I think we have government-funded R&D, private-funded R&D, and government-conducted R&D, private-conducted R&D. Starting from government sector and gradually move to private sector, I think that will be very important. But in order to initiate that, the government involvement, including research institutes and as a gathering a sort of core part of human capital, those efforts are definitely needed. Otherwise you cannot really do that.
Can you give us a bit of the breakdown? Out of this 1% research budget, how many percent goes to universities? How many percent goes to industry? How many percent goes to research institutions by the government?
Yeah, in case of Japan and also Korea too, I guess, the private sector is doing a lot of R&D now. So the government sector's portion, in case of Japan, maybe a little bit more than 1%, but,
okay.
But the rest, 2-3%, are done by private companies.
I see. Okay. Any lessons from Australia?
Well, first of all, it's absolutely crucial to drive competitiveness because you've got to drive innovation. So R&D is crucial to that. In Australia, we have 2 or 3 ways of doing government assistance. The first is what's called a research and development tax concession, that companies can claim a tax concession where they undertake research and development.
Okay.
That's now got some incentives in it to collaborate with universities. Then we've got a major grants program that's been most successful in the health area, where we've had tremendous success in health research, and we have major health institutes. We're just having a major inquiry actually into our research and development system in Australia. The other thing that is increasingly being done is something that you do in the United Kingdom through your catapults, which is to actually have precinct-driven research and development between companies, academia, and government funding.
Yeah.
So like your catapults around advanced manufacturing. I chair the one in Sydney around advanced manufacturing. So that's a big opportunity to drive collaboration and to drive really focused research. And the final thing we've done in Australia is actually set a national set of priorities for research so that industry and government are on the same page in terms of what are the priorities that we want to put funding into.
Yeah, that's a very creative solution, a tax incentive for research. Pak Bani, in Samudra, as a CEO, how much do you invest on R&D?
Honest answer, I don't know the budget number, but we really put it as an importance. We set a specific department, a unit in Samudra, especially for research. So we spend a budget as if we have another subsidiary for it. We call it Siri Samudra Indonesia Research Initiative. It's treated and it's allocated a budget as if we set up an independent business unit. And we have our own researchers and economists even. And I think it's very, I've not seen it in any other shipping companies.
So, so they have to generate revenue.
They don't really have to generate revenues, but they do also. The main objective is for them to be able to produce research and reports and advise the management and the businesses. But in reality, they liaise with a lot of institutions, government institutions, or even in not only in Indonesia or from different countries. And when they conduct a joint research, they also get revenues out of it.
Yeah, that would be a gold standard if you can have a business. Yeah, please.
Yeah, so we need some sort of national innovation system. The government, university research institutes, and the private sector. They have to get together to do R&D. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
Yeah, that's the key ingredient, and the government-led initiatives. 2 more minutes. One more question. Yeah, please. Any female member of the audience, please. So, yeah, that one over there, please.
Testing.
Sorry. One more question. If we still have time, I would like to go to a female question. Female questioner, please. I'm sorry, I'm going back to you. Just one moment. I'm just going to give you another 2 minutes after this. But please, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Wahyu from Investor Daily and Jakarta Globe. Recently, World Bank and also IMF, on their latest report, they both said almost similar thing, that the keys for 2026 economic growth would be technology and also investment and technology and also digital. In Indonesia, I know Pak Sigit and also Pak Bani that several things have been done, like government has been giving incentives for companies who put more for research and development in terms of tax holiday. If I'm not wrong, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we need bigger leap. We need more things to do to make this bigger leap so that amid this, big challenges of economic, both from internal and also from external sentiment, that we have something. Thank you.
It's not big enough to you.
We need more.
Sigit, not big enough.
That's true, Mbak Wahyu. That's, the tech-driven industry is the solutions for the growth in 26, 27s. Fortunately enough, we are in Danantara. We are working on the 5 very critical sectors of industries. Number 1 is the energy sectors. We will have a lot of works with the partnerships and in the energy industries. For example, we will be soon launching the 100 gigawatts, the solar panels that will require a lot of R&D in terms of control systems, photovoltaic, and everything else. Number 2 is with the food and health securities. That we have a lot of import for that. Otherwise, we will keep dependence. Number 3, we are working on the industry that will work on the advanced materials and semiconductors, as I mentioned in the beginning, the beginnings. Number 4, we're working on the infrastructures and telecommunications, AI, cybersecurities. Number 5 is on the defense industry. So these 5 is actually tech-driven industries that we'll be working to push Indonesian's economics into the next phase, actually, 26, 27, all the 29s. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're running out of time. I just want to bring the end to the discussion. We have discussed a lot about human capital development. We've taken on issues related to knowledge transfers. We've taken on issues related to government role. We want to make sure that technology enables companies to be more competitive rather than replaces people. Unfortunately, there's a lot more questions that we haven't discussed, but I hope that's giving you enough insights for today. Please give a round of applause to our panelist member as I give it back to the organizers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Please give a round of applause once again for our moderator and our esteemed speakers for our plenary discussion. And please remain on stage, as next we are to present a token of appreciation on behalf of the Indonesian Business Council. And to present these tokens, we would like to invite onto the stage the chairman of PT Gunung Sewu Kencana, Bapak Husodo Angko Subroto, to please present the token of appreciation for our moderator and our esteemed panelists. And next, may we invite to please take a group photo for this momentous occasion. Thank you, Bapak Husodo Angko Subroto, and thank you to our moderator. And of course, once again, thank you to our esteemed panelists for such an